You believe you are fundamentally honest, don't you? You pride yourself on speaking your mind, on seeing things exactly as they truly are, on facing reality without flinching. But what if the most insidious, pervasive, and ultimately devastating lies you tell aren't directed at others, but at yourself? What if your deepest, most crippling deceptions are hidden not in your spoken words, but woven into the subtle fabric of your everyday existence, shaping your reality, your decisions, and your emotional landscape without your conscious consent? You ignore nagging doubt about your chosen path, meticulously rationalize uncomfortable behaviors, and craft elaborate, convincing narratives to avoid confronting the brutal truth of your own inconsistencies. This isn't just a minor character flaw. It's a profound, insidious act of self-betrayal, a silent poison that slowly but relentlessly drains your authentic potential and shackles your very spirit. In a modern world saturated with half-truths and performative authenticity, where everyone curates a seemingly perfect online persona, desperately chasing digital approval and seeking external validation as if it were the breath of life, you might find yourself unwittingly trapped in a vicious cycle of subtle self-deception. You meticulously present a version of yourself that you believe is universally acceptable, undeniably strong, or perpetually kind, even if it means rigorously suppressing your genuine feelings, ignoring your most fundamental needs, or tolerating situations that slowly but inevitably erode your core integrity. You rationalize compromises, justify inaction in the face of injustice, and tirelessly blame external circumstances for an internal dissatisfaction you can barely name, much less understand. Yet, despite your exhausting, ceaseless efforts to maintain this elaborate illusion, you feel a persistent hollowness, a nagging sense that something essential is profoundly missing. This incessant internal conflict, this silent, grinding war between the polished self you present to the world and the raw, authentic self you truly are leads not to peace, but to chronic anxiety, pervasively unfulfilled desires, and a suffocating sense of emotional fatigue. Your vital energy is relentlessly drained, your clarity of thought becomes clouded, and your authentic power diminishes with every unspoken truth. What if this conventional understanding of honesty, this desperate need to project an image, is merely a seductive mirage, a convenient lie that distracts you from a far more brutal, yet profoundly liberating, underlying truth? What if the relentless pursuit of an outward-facing, externally validated freedom is precisely what binds you, leading to a perpetual cycle of disappointment and an insatiable craving for what you can never truly possess through external means? Your suffering stems not from the lack of external freedom, but from the insidious illusion that it's the only kind that truly matters. You become a prisoner of your attachments, a slave to your desires, forever reacting to the unpredictable currents of the outside world, never truly commanding your own destiny. What if the very act of seeing clearly, of unmasking your internal lies, is the catalyst for absolute self-liberation and an unshakable inner power? This video will not offer superficial self-help, comforting illusions, or easy answers that merely patch over the wound. It will offer a brutal clarity. It will take an unflinching, dispassionate look at the insidious nature of self-deception, revealing precisely how it constructs your perceived reality, diminishes your true power, and ultimately keeps you from genuine influence. Through the profound, often confronting, wisdom of a master teacher whose insights demand radical honesty and inner purity, we will uncover an ancient blueprint for living a life of unimpeachable truth, a life grounded in authentic power and profound peace, beginning with the difficult, yet ultimately liberating, act of confronting yourself. Are you ready to face the most uncomfortable truths about who you pretend to be, even to yourself, and step into an authenticity that transforms everything? Because this journey into absolute self-honesty begins now. The human capacity for self-deception is truly astonishing. We are not merely occasional liars to others, we are often consummate masters of self-deception, capable of constructing elaborate internal narratives, intricate webs of justification, and convincing alibis to explain away our inaction, our compromises, and our persistent failures to live authentically. This problem is deeply rooted in our primal need for acceptance, for belonging, and for maintaining a coherent, if fundamentally false self-image that meticulously shields us from discomfort, from fear, and from the painful reality of our own inconsistencies. From early childhood, we are exquisitely trained to filter our perception of reality, to selectively perceive only what confirms our comfort, validates our existing beliefs, and conveniently denies our deepest fears. We become incredibly adept at avoiding truths that might expose our weaknesses, challenge our ingrained beliefs, or force us into the arduous, often painful, process of genuine change and growth. Consider the pervasive modern example of toxic positivity in our daily lives, a perfect illustration of this internal deception. You might find yourself, or observe others, constantly proclaiming to be always fine, always positive, or always grateful, rigorously suppressing legitimate feelings of anger, sadness, frustration, or fear. This outward appearance seems virtuous, perhaps even strong and admirable, but internally, these unacknowledged, unexpressed emotions do not simply disappear, they fester and accumulate. They become a hidden reservoir of resentment, leading to sudden, inexplicable outbursts of rage, manifesting as pervasive, passive-aggressive behaviors that subtly sabotage your relationships, or emerging as chronic anxiety, unexplained sadness, or even physical ailments. Or think of the subtle lies we tell ourselves about our relationships. It's not that bad, really, they'll change. Or, I can fix them, when deep down, a quiet, persistent voice within you knows the dynamic is profoundly draining, inherently unhealthy, or even profoundly destructive. This pervasive self-deception serves as a psychological shield, a self-imposed blindness, protecting the fragile ego from uncomfortable truths, from the pain of facing reality as it truly is. But tragically, this very shield, designed for protection, simultaneously prevents genuine growth, profound self-awareness, and ultimately, absolute psychological liberation. The problem, then, lies not in external circumstances or the actions of others, but in this pervasive reliance on internal fictions to avoid discomfort. When you consistently choose to believe a comforting lie about yourself, about your situation, or about others' intentions, you become profoundly predictable. Predictability, in the strategic game of life and authentic power, is not merely a disadvantage. It is an open invitation for manipulation. It is an exposed flank. It allows others to anticipate your moves, to exploit your blind spots, and to ultimately dictate the terms of your engagement. Think of a chess player who always makes the same opening move, or a negotiator who always yields at a certain point. They are easily defeated. True clarity, the kind that empowers you to genuinely shape your reality, demands an uncompromising commitment to seeing things as they are, stripped bare of all self-serving narratives and comforting illusions. Real self-mastery is not about maintaining a convenient, yet ultimately debilitating, delusion. It's about understanding the silent, immutable mechanisms of internal honesty and confronting the truths that humble you, yet simultaneously set you free. The common pursuit of comfort often fails precisely because it's a futile attempt to avoid the very discomfort that unlocks genuine insight, authentic power, and profound inner peace. Among the most profound teachers in human history, one figure relentlessly challenged the human capacity for self-deception, demanding an unflinching, absolute commitment to truth, Jesus Christ. Beyond theological interpretations, his teachings, particularly as meticulously recorded in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, provide an unparalleled blueprint for psychological honesty and a radical, uncompromising confrontation with inner hypocrisy. He was a master of the human psyche, a profound observer of the human condition, who consistently pointed to an inner truth that demands complete, brutal sincerity, starting with oneself. Jesus frequently exposed the stark dissonance between outward appearance and inner reality. He reserved his sharpest, most searing rebukes for hypocrisy, particularly that practiced by the Pharisees, who were meticulous in their outward adherence to religious rules, but often lacked genuine inner sincerity. In a vivid and unforgettable metaphor in Matthew 23:27-28, he condemned them, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside but on the inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. This is not merely a moral judgment, it's a penetrating psychological insight. It highlights the profound cost of incongruence between one's proclaimed self and true internal state. When you live as a whitewashed tomb, when your outward performance belies your inner reality, you are fundamentally disconnected from your own vital truth, leading to an insidious inner decay that eventually manifests as dissatisfaction, chronic anxiety, and a profound lack of genuine power. The demand for honesty, Jesus insists, must begin with the individual facing their own internal contradictions, even if it shatters their self-image. Furthermore, Jesus' teachings were a constant, radical call to absolute truth-telling. He emphasized that unwavering clarity of communication and complete sincerity of intent are not just virtues, but foundational pillars for a liberated existence. He stated in Matthew 5:37, "All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one." This isn't merely about simple, concise communication, it's about profound inner integrity. When your yes truly means yes, and your no truly means no, you align your inner will with your outer expression. This courageous act of clear truth-telling, even when deeply uncomfortable or inconvenient, prevents resentment from festering within, establishes clear, unshakable boundaries in relationships, and builds a powerful, unwavering sense of self-respect. It signals to both yourself and the world that you operate from a place of unassailable authenticity, not manipulation, fear, or a desperate need for external approval. Jesus also placed a profound, penetrating emphasis on seeing clearly through discernment. He warned against the common human tendency to judge others without first meticulously examining one's own internal landscape. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Matthew 7:3-5. This isn't just a simple lesson on humility or the pitfalls of moral superiority. It's a masterclass in psychological insight. Our judgment of others is often, as Carl Jung later articulated, a projection of our own unacknowledged flaws, insecurities, or fiercer, cunning way. The ego distracts us from the uncomfortable, necessary work within. By consciously letting go of the compulsive need to judge others, you simultaneously release the immense internal tension of hypocrisy and self-deception, allowing for profound self-acceptance and creating an expansive inner space of peace. He also spoke of discerning true nature versus false appearances, urging followers to know people by their fruits, Matthew 7:16, a principle that applies as much to rigorous self-assessment as to evaluating others. He called for an inner light that, if corrupted and turned into darkness, would lead to profound self-deception, stating, "If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness?" Matthew 6:23. This inner light, once dimmed by self-deception, obscures true reality and invites suffering. So, how do you cultivate this brutal clarity of truth? How do you actively integrate these radical teachings into your daily life to unmask your own self-deceptions and unlock absolute inner honesty? It's not about performing grand gestures or adopting outward piety. It's a constant, often uncomfortable, re-education of the mind, spirit, and emotional body. It is the challenging work of transforming your internal landscape from one of comforting lies to one of liberating truth. One of the most powerful and transformative principles is the mindset of radical self-observation. This means constantly monitoring your own thoughts, emotions, and underlying motivations without immediate judgment. It requires a profound, almost scientific, curiosity about your own internal responses. When you feel a strong impulse to rationalize away a mistake, to blame an external factor, or to hide an uncomfortable truth from yourself, pause. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding here? What lie am I trying to protect? What discomfort am I trying to escape? This radical self-inquiry, practiced with compassionate yet unflinching detachment, is the very first, foundational step to exposing your inner inconsistencies. Jesus' constant call to watch and pray, Matthew 26:41, can be interpreted as a profound spiritual discipline of continuous vigilance over the inner landscape, ensuring your true self is not lost to unconscious patterns. Next, cultivate unflinching self-accountability. This means taking full, uncompromising responsibility for your own actions, your own feelings, and the consequences of your choices without externalizing blame. Stop blaming others, circumstances, or even fate for your internal state or your failures. When a problem arises, instead of asking, "Whose fault is this?" ask, "What is my role in this situation? What can I do differently to resolve or transcend this?" This unwavering commitment to self-accountability is an act of profound self-empowerment that frees you from the victim mentality often perpetuated by self-deception. It's the precise moment you step into your true, undeniable power. Practice authentic communication and consistent integrity. This means relentlessly aligning your inner truth with your outer expression. Learn to speak your yes as yes and your no as no, even when it's deeply uncomfortable, unpopular, or challenges the status quo. This builds an unshakable integrity, not just with others, but fundamentally with yourself. It requires the courage to set firm boundaries, to express your true needs, and to speak what is difficult but necessary. Each time you align your words and actions with your genuine inner state, you strengthen your capacity for authentic living and systematically erode the insidious power of self-deception. This makes you less manipulable by those who thrive on ambiguity. Cultivate radical transparency with self first. This involves shedding the inner masks you wear even for yourself. Confront the uncomfortable truth that you may carry hidden judgments, repressed anger, unspoken desires, or unresolved pains from the past. This aligns with Jesus' consistent critique of outward show without inner substance, and his call for inner purity and sincerity. This rigorous practice of internal transparency is the very foundation for genuine self-acceptance and profound inner peace. It means embracing all of your humanity, not just the parts you deem acceptable or lovable, and allowing that raw honesty to guide your life. Finally, consider the cleansing power of truth. The unwavering, relentless pursuit of truth, however brutal or painful it may initially seem, is ultimately the only path to profound, lasting liberation. When you bravely expose a lie you've been telling yourself, even if it's deeply unsettling, you immediately release the immense psychic energy that was previously consumed in maintaining that illusion. This is the path to inner freedom. It's like a room that's been dark and cluttered with secrets for years. Opening the blinds not only reveals the dust and disarray, but also immediately lets in the life-giving light and fresh air, creating the space for true order, clarity, and renewal. This truth, embraced, becomes your ultimate shield. When you systematically cultivate this brutal clarity of truth, when you learn to unmask your own self-deceptions, something truly miraculous begins to happen within you. You don't just gain external advantages, you forge an entirely new relationship with truth itself, one rooted in unshakable authenticity and an unassailable inner peace. By adopting this radically honest approach to life, you transform your interaction with the world on every level. You become less reactive, less susceptible to the subtle emotional manipulation that thrives in the shadows of hidden truths. Your decisions are no longer swayed by the fear of disapproval, by subconscious guilt, or by the desperate need to maintain a false image. Instead, they are driven by a profound, crystal-clear inner integrity, by an expansive spirit of radical self-acceptance, and by an unconditional commitment to reality that transcends all judgment and external conditions. This profound shift makes you incredibly difficult to control, because you are no longer playing by the rules of illusion that others instinctively exploit. You cease to be a puppet to external desires, to societal expectations, or to your own unconscious conditioning. Instead, you emerge as a sovereign of your own consciousness. This cultivated inner peace allows you to navigate complex social, professional, and personal landscapes with a clarity, a wisdom, and a profound effectiveness that few possess. This is not about crude exploitation of others. It's about fiercely safeguarding your inner sanctity, making choices aligned with your deepest truth, and achieving a liberated existence through genuine self-mastery. True influence, born from radical honesty, is not about dominating others or wielding external power in a forceful way. It's about radiating an authentic peace that inspires, an unwavering strength that comes from within, and a profound sense of purpose that magnetically attracts. Your presence begins to command respect not through outward displays of power or loud declarations, but through an aura of quiet competence, profound sincerity, and unshakable inner joy. This is the ultimate influence, a power that stems from within, transforming you into the architect of your own liberated destiny, capable of sculpting your reality with deliberate, unyielding intent, grounded in the bedrock of absolute self-honesty. The journey to cultivate the brutal clarity of truth, to unmask your own self-deceptions, is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is an invitation to an absolute, unconditional liberation of your very being. It demands a rigorous willingness to shed comfortable illusions, to confront the most uncomfortable internal realities, and to embrace a form of psychological discipline that utterly transcends conventional understanding of honesty. This path, though challenging and often isolating, offers a reward beyond measure, an unshakable mind built on the solid, eternal foundation of inner truth. For a deeper dive into Jesus' timeless teachings on self-honesty, wisdom, and transformation, venture into the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These ancient texts are far more than just historical accounts. They are living blueprints for a liberated existence, offering a direct path to cultivating your own inner kingdom, a source of profound peace and true power that lies within you, waiting to be unveiled by the relentless light of truth. Now, pause for a moment and consider this. Are you genuinely willing to pay the formidable price of being truly honest with yourself? The courage it takes to expose your own subtle lies, to embrace vulnerability, to shed the masks you wear even in solitude. This very act of self-confrontation is not a sign of weakness. It is your first, most powerful step toward ultimate freedom. Your self-deception has held you captive long enough. This is your definitive moment to claim the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are, and to step into a life of authentic power. The future is forged by those who dare to see clearly, to live with integrity, and to transcend the comfortable illusions that bind others. If this message has ignited a spark within you, if you feel the stirring of a deeper truth calling you forward, then let this be your personal declaration. Join us in this unyielding pursuit of clarity. Our shared journey into the essence of influence and unshakable self-mastery has just begun. There remains immense wisdom to uncover, countless more illusions to shatter, and boundless power to reclaim. Take the definitive next step. The path of brutal clarity awaits. I will meet you there.